to know everything. Who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me.
Hello, welcome to the latest and greatest episode of State of the Pels. I'm Chrissy Smith, here with you today to talk all things Pelicans as we go into this final stretch of the season. Should be a good final stretch of the season, so let's get right into it. So we've got a couple things today. First of all, I want to talk about the rest of the season. Got some information, some stats from a local reporter, Rod Walker. He's great. If you don't follow him on X, then you should. He does a really great job covering the Pelicans and just giving tidbits that you don't always hear about. And then also we've got some questions from some followers who sent in some information or questions that they want answers to. So we're going to try to get to those, see how many we can get to today. So first, let's dive into what Rod Walker posted earlier this week. And it's some really good information, should give some great insight into how the Pelicans look and what we kind of see out of them for the rest of the season. So the Pelicans have an 11-9 record in the last 20 games. If you didn't know, we are currently a winning above 500 team. It does feel good. We've won 6 of the last 8. Granted, most of those have not been against playoff contending teams, but it's nice to see us get those wins. I remember last year when we didn't even get those wins. And you were just like, man, if we can't beat these teams, then, what are we doing? So a little improvement there for sure. But here's what Rod said that's really interesting. 9 of the Pelicans' next 10 games are against teams that currently are in the playoffs or at least in the playoff tournament. And so you've got a very healthy Pelicans team right now. Actually, everyone's healthy with the exception of Bryce McGowan's, who we found out yesterday has a fracture in one of his toes. So he will be sidelined most likely the rest of the season. But otherwise, you've got your starting 5 is healthy. You've got the majority of your bench very healthy. Seeing what this team can do in the next against those, in the 9 of the 10 games that are against playoff or play-in teams, that was going to really tell us a lot about what can this team do? Do we have much hope going into next year? What changes need to be made? There's a lot of discussion on, are the Pelicans going to just run it back and stick with this team and say, hey, this is who we've got and this is what we're going with? I am hopeful that that's not the direction that they're going to go, because unless we win 9 of the 10 games against those teams, we have proven that we, even mostly healthy, we are not going to be able to beat those types of teams. And I'll tell you, the number one issue that I see is the 3-point shooting. We don't have nearly enough of it. In the game against the Suns the other night, where we only lost by 2, they shot over 50 3-pointers, and we were less than half that. So there's just not enough possessions in a game to make up for that lack of 3-point shooting and 3 points made, because obviously from a mathematical standpoint, if you've got a team that's knocking down 20 of their 50 3-pointers, that's too many points to overcome when you're just doing it by scoring 2-pointers every single time, or just free throws. That game we didn't even shoot free throws that well, so you were kind of behind the 8 ball with that too. So I hope that we are going to go and get some kind of 3-point shooting, because right now we've got Trey Murphy, who's having a great year for sure. And then thank God for Sadiq Bey, having a career year as well and knocking down threes for us. But other than that, we've got your typical, hey, this guy's in the NBA. Yes, he can knock down a 3. Actually, I want to bring this point up here. So we've got Derek Queen. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on. But he's actually shooting 26% from the 3-point line. And, he typically attempts one, a 3-point shot a game at least. When you look over at Zion for the season, he's taken 4 3-point shots total. So from a big man perspective in the NBA, where guys are taking a lot more 3-pointers, we're missing a lot of that. You got Carlo, who does definitely knocks down a few threes, is willing to attempt them. But you've got a guy like Zion, who is strictly an in the paint scorer, and he's only attempted 4 3-point shots on the year. If it's me and I'm James Brago going into this last stretch, I'm telling Zion he has to shoot at least 2 3-pointers a game. Whether he makes them or not is irrelevant. The point is to open up some space for him so that all the defense doesn't just constantly and immediately collapse on him, knowing he's going to go to the goal and he's going to go left every single time. if you can just get those 3-point attempts up, and by the way, he's made 1 of his 4 3-pointers this year. He can shoot the basketball. You can't tell me that he can't knock down a 3 here and there. So he's got to get to that point where he's doing that. He has to develop his game. He already knows how to do it. He's just not attempting it. And God knows they're giving him the room to take as many 3-point shots as he wants a game. Take at least 2. You're going to knock down 1 here and there. Make them respect the fact that you can knock down the shot. Open up everything on the floor for you. So I know Brago is going to want to get wins going down the stretch. We all want to see that. And, Brago probably feels like he needs as many wins as he can get just from an interim head coach standpoint. But I would just be saying the season is obviously done for from a playoff or play-in perspective. Let's try this game plan and let's make it happen. And I would even put a stipulation around Zion. You have to do this or you're not playing, because we know he needs to play a certain number of games this season to get that massive bonus that he has. So I would implement this strategy and say, this is going to be the game plan going forward next year regardless. So I want to see it happening starting right now. I'm not the coach, so I don't get to make these decisions, but that's what I think we need to see. We need Zion to develop his game and open up the floor. And we've been into this many seasons with him not doing that, never expanding his game, never even taking the mid-range. I mean, when he does, X explodes because we're all so fired up he finally took a mid-range shot, which he typically knocks down. So we need to see that. So I would like to just kind of force his hand on that going into the end of the season, saying, hey, it's not going to cost us the season or anything, but let's get ready for next year because we need this. So we'll see. My prediction, I would like to see us go 500 in those 10 games, 9 of the 10 games that we have against playoff contending teams. If we go 500 there, I'm going to be feeling good and hopeful going into next season. And I think really in New Orleans, that's all that fans need. They just need some hope. I mean, we'll stick with you for quite a while. Just give us a little bit of hope of look what the Saints have done. And I think there's a lot of hope around that. I mean, especially in what we've done since free agency has started already. So, so that's what I wanted to reference there with the stats and all from Rod Walker. Great job to him on pointing that out. So, if anything, it's going to be fun to watch the rest of the games this season. We've got reason to watch. We're not tanking, and that's great to see. I hate that. I mean, obviously, if you're going to get a high draft round pick, there can be some excitement around it, but we don't have that. So, anyway, let's get into some questions from some viewers. Speaking of first round picks, first question: was the DQ pick good? Since we do not have a first round pick this year coming up, well, I think it's too early to tell on that. We've obviously seen Derek Queen. He's made a lot of progress this year. Been really fantastic as a rookie. Him and Jeremiah Fears both very good as rookies this year. They need to develop. We knew we were going to see that as the season went on. Where do they need to develop? You can see DQ needs to work on some defense. His footwork is great already. Just keep working on that. He needs to get stronger for sure. He does look so much like Jokic that it is interesting, because when you think of trading that for a first round pick, would you trade actual Jokic for a first round pick? Oh yeah, absolutely. You would do that. Is Derek Queen the next Jokic? There are a lot of similarities for sure, but it's just too early to tell. And then, going into the sophomore year, what is that going to look like? Is he going to put in a ton of work this offseason? And you would hope that that's what's going to happen. Instead of, that sophomore slump, just have a phenomenal sophomore season, maybe be on the sophomore rising stars, get to that level. That would be great. So I know a lot of people, they really think that was a poor decision. I see the thought process behind it, and hopefully it turns out well. I don't think having a first round pick next year was gonna, if we don't have Derek Queen, but you tell me we have a first round pick next year, I don't think that's going to move the needle to, okay, next year we're a playoff team because we have that. And that's how I look at it. If that was going to be such a difference maker, I would take my chance on DQ being a superstar player. Then we need a first round pick again next year so that we can hopefully make the playoffs. I'm good with what the base that we have built with the team. No first round pick, and let's see what we can pick up to form that playoff team. The thing is, we're not far off from a playoff team. You can see that in these players, but the number one thing we're lacking really is a number one on our team. We've got, some number twos. We got some great number threes. I'm not talking about position numbers. I'm talking about, we don't have that superstar guy on the team. We thought Zion would be that. He still could be that, but he has to develop his game. He's going to have to expand his game. He cannot just be a, middle of the paint layup guy. So that's what we're missing. It's not just 3-point shooting here and there, whatever, it's having that number one player. And so if you get a guy like Derek Queen that can potentially turn into that, if he does turn into a Jokic type player who is a number one, clearly, then it's worth the first round pick. So we'll see, I guess. All right, next question. Will Zion be traded in the offseason? This is probably the number one question that we've received. Is he going to be traded? I think that the Pelicans would be wise to listen to offers and see, because he hasn't grown into that number one that a team needs to take them, close out the games. And he's the guy that's getting the ball in, the last 20 seconds. And we don't have, he just has not become that. He is a phenomenal athlete. He is a star for sure. But we've got to have that guy on the team, and we don't have that right now. So if we could use him to pick up what we need with that, maybe make a smorgasbord for a trade of players we have, because we do have a lot of depth, then I think it is possible that he gets, this is, I would say, the first season that I think it's really possible that he does get traded in off season. And I think he's really bought in. He had a lot of incentive to buy in this year. So, I'm glad that he did, at least. So I do think that he likes New Orleans. I think he likes this place and the fans. But I don't think it's necessarily up to him anymore. And if what the Saints are doing right now in the offseason is any indication to what the Pelicans are going to do, then they're going to say we have to do whatever it takes, because we're right there. We're right there with so many pieces on this team. It's either that or just clean house and start over and completely rebuild. And I think we're too close to something that I hope that we don't go through that. But so I don't know. I think that, there's going to be a market for him out there after what he's done this year. And I think that this is the season he would be most likely to be traded if it was going to happen. So, okay. I think this is all the last question we've got for the day. This is really all we have time for, but, all right, last question. Will Borrego be the Pelicans head coach next season? I'm going to go with no. I don't think so. I think we do need something fresh. Borrego coming in as the interim he had the whole season to prove that he was going to work some magic with a pretty healthy team. Just hasn't happened. Maybe he's too close to just been too much in the system for too long. I don't know, but I personally think we need some fresh blood. If I had to pick somebody, I would love to see Chris Paul come in and take over this team, especially with the rookies going into their sophomore year, knowing what Chris Paul was as a rookie and then how he extended his career out to become what he became. I don't know that he's even thinking about coaching, but if I could just pick one person off the top of my head, that's who I would go with. So I know there's some good prospects out there and possibilities, but I do think we need to go with somebody younger, and not younger than Borrego, just a younger coach in general. Borrego is definitely a younger coach, but it hasn't worked, unfortunately, for Borrego. I don't know if Willie Green would have stayed. I think it would have been the same outcome as Borrego or Willie Green. So that tells you right there that there's got to be something new to happen, because we need that. With this team, there is too much potential and a couple of missing parts to just run it back, because clearly that's not going to work. This healthy team still is not working. So, and I know you just got DeJounte back and he's doing fantastic. I think this is the best he's ever looked. So I'm happy to see that. But if you can't win against teams that are going to be in the playoffs, then what's the point, you know? So I don't think Brago's going to be back, but wish him well because he stepped in a really tough position. And I think he's definitely got the respect of the team and all. I think it's time for a change. So anyway, so tonight we've got Toronto Raptors coming at home against the Pelicans. We've got our Brandon Ingram return. Hopefully there's going to be a nice tribute for him for that. He definitely deserves it. And it'd be nice to get a win, against him and the Raptors. We've been playing really well overall, so we'll see what happens tonight. But definitely want to welcome BI back. He's missed. Glad he's having a great season. And looking forward to the game tonight. So check it out. It'll be on Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network as usual. And if you got any questions that you want to send into, go ahead and just send a DM to me or to Be in the Know, and we will add it to the list that we are compiling right now. So hope you guys have a great day. If you need anything from me, you know where to find me on X. See you later.